morning, ladies and gentlemen. If you are joining us online, please mute your mic until you are recognized to speak. Before we start, could I ask somebody to offer us a word of prayer? Anybody who the Spirit moves. We don't want somebody who is reluctantly praying for us. Thank you.
Everlasting Father, we thank you this morning for your goodness, for your mercies and your favor that you've showered on us as individuals and as an entity. We thank you, Father, for the year. We thank you, Father, for how far you've led us thus far. We commit this meeting into your hands, that, Lord, you take absolute control, that all of our deliberations will be fruitful and to the furtherance of the business. Father, we ask for this in the mighty name of Jesus Christ. We have prayed.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to the 8th Annual General Meeting of our company, Nasd Plc. I shall now call on one of our members. Well, the prayer is said, sorry. Shall we rise for the national anthem? I now declare the meeting open. On May 5th, 2021, the Corporate Affairs Commission approved the convening of the company's 8th Annual General Meeting to be held by proxy. In accordance with the Corporate Affairs Commission's guidelines and approval thereon, and subsequent upon the federal and state government directives limiting the maximum number of people at a gathering to 50 people, this 8th Annual General Meeting will therefore be conducted by proxy. The quorum stipulated by Articles 13 of the Articles of Association of the company is 10 shareholders present in person or by proxy. We have received duly executed proxy forms from 29 shareholders. Can the registrars confirm that the quorum has been formed?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, directors, and the esteemed shareholders. My name is Urobu Tonte, and I represent Coronation Registrars Limited, formerly United Securities Limited, registrars to NASD Plc. We have 29 shareholders attending by proxy with a total of 251,825,460 shareholding, representing 56.6% of the issued and fully paid up shares of the company. With this information, we hereby confirm that the quorum has been formed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Based on the report of the registrar, I hereby declare that a quorum has been formed in compliance with Article 13 of the company's Articles of Association. Before we proceed to the formal agenda for the meeting, I would like to introduce to you very briefly members of the Board of Directors. Mr. Chike Nwanze. Mr. Ariyo Olusekun. Mr. Oladipo Aina. Mr. Kayode Falowo. Mr. Abubakar Lawal. Mr. Ike Mukwede.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Mr. Kerry Puka.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Jomale. And I am Olutola Mobulu. We have here represented this morning, either in person or online, the company's secretaries, GIO Nominees Limited, represented by Mrs. Omolola Ikwegu. Thank you. The registrar, coronation registrar, is represented by Mrs. Tonte Oruabu. The Securities and Exchange Commission, represented by Mr. Ibrahim Abu. Corporate Affairs Commission is joining us online. The company's external auditors, Deloitte and Touche, represented by Mr. Joshua Ojo. The chairman of the Audit Committee, represented by Mrs. Fiona Ahime. Thank you. I would like to inform all members that in accordance with subsection 235, subsection 7 of the Companies and Other Matters Act 2020, the Register of Directors' shareholding is available for inspection throughout the meeting. I now call upon the Company Secretary to read the notice of the meeting, which is on page 7 of the annual report.
her or its stead in accordance with the Corporate Affairs Commission guidelines on holding general meetings using proxies. For the appointment to be valid, a completed and duly stamped proxy form must be deposited at the office of the registrar, Coronation Registrars Limited, 9 Amodu Ojikutu Street, Victoria Island, Lagos, Nigeria, not less than 48 hours before the time fixed for the meeting. A blank proxy form is attached to the annual report. Notes: compliance with COVID-19 related directives and guidelines. In the interest of public safety and having due regard to the Nigerian Center for Disease Control (NCDC) COVID-19 guidance for safe mass gatherings in Nigeria and the restrictions on public gatherings by the Lagos State Government, and pursuant to the Corporate Affairs Commission's guidelines on holding annual general meetings by public companies using proxies, only persons indicated to be selected proxies on the proxy form would attend the meeting physically. All other shareholders will be required to attend the meeting online and to vote at the meeting through a proxy. In view of the above, the CAC has approved that attendance at the meeting shall only be by proxy to ensure public health and safety. Shareholders are required to appoint a proxy of their choice from the list of nominated proxies below. 1. Mr. Olutola Moboluri, Chairman. 2. Mr. Bola Ajomale, Managing Director. And 3. Mr. Kasim Garba Kofi, Shareholders Representative. Shareholders are therefore requested to submit their completed proxy forms in line with the Corporate Affairs Commission's guidelines to the email of the Company Secretary, elikwagu@ikoliokagbe.com, or to legalcompliance@nasd.ng.com, not later than June 15, 2021, to enable the company stamp the proxy forms and lodge same with coronation registrars not later than 48 hours prior to the meeting. Special notice: Mr. Chike Wanze has given notice to the company, and by doing so, he hereby further discloses to members that he attained the age of 80 years on 7 November 2020. Audit Committee. In accordance with Section 4046 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, any shareholder may nominate another shareholder for election to the Audit Committee by giving notice in writing of such nomination to the email of the Company Secretary, elikwagu@ikoliokagbe.com, or to legalcompliance@nasdng.com office at least 21 days before the annual general meeting. Nominations can also be submitted to the Company Secretary, GIO Nominees Limited, 864B Bishop Aboyadeko Street, Victoria Island, Lagos. The Code of Corporate Governance for Public Companies issued by the Securities and Exchange Commission provides that members of the Audit Committee should be financially literate and able to read financial statements. We therefore request that all nominations to the Audit Committee should be accompanied with the curriculum vitae of the nominees. Live streaming of AGM. The AGM will be streamed live. This will enable shareholders and other stakeholders who will not be attending physically to follow the proceedings. The link for the AGM live streaming will be made available on the company's website at www.nasdng.com. Closure of registers of members. The register of members will be closed from the 4th to 11th June 2021, both days inclusive, for the purpose of updating the register of members. Website. A copy of this notice, the annual report and accounts, and other information relating to the meeting can be accessed at the company's website at www.nasdng.com. Shareholders who have submitted their email details to the registrar will receive the electronic version of the annual report via email. Shareholders' right to ask questions. The right of shareholders and other holders of the company's securities to ask questions, not only at the meeting, but also in writing prior to the meeting, on any item contained in the annual report and accounts is recognized. Please send questions, comments, observations to the company, 9th floor, UBA Building, 57 Marina, Lagos, or the email of the Company Secretary, elikwagu@ikoliokagbe.com, or the office of the Company Secretary, GIO Nominees Limited, 864B Bishop Aboyade Cole Street, Victoria Island, Lagos, not later than June 15, 2021. Questions will be presented at the annual general meeting and answered thereat. Dated this 21st day of May 2021, by order of the board, L. Omolola Ikwagu, Mrs.
Thank you very much. The chairman's statement commences from page 10 of the annual report, which has been circulated to all shareholders. May I seek your permission to take as read the chairman's statement in the 2020 annual report and accounts? Are there any objections to the chairman's statement being taken as read? I see there is none. I now lay before you the director's report and the annual audited accounts for the year ended 31st December 2020. Each member will have received a copy of the annual report and accounts of the directors. With your permission, I would like to take them as read. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I now call upon the representative of the external auditors to read their report in respect of the company's financial statements for the year ended 31st December 2020, which will be presented by Mr. Joshua Ojo of Deloitte and Touche.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I seek your permission to read this while sitting.
Please do.
Thank you. The auditor's report is on page 50 of the annual report and financial statements. Independent auditor's report to the shareholders of NASD Plc. We have audited the financial statements of NASD set out on pages 53 to 92, which comprise the statement of financial position as at 31 December 2020, statement of profit or loss and other comprehensive income, statement of changes in equity, statement of cash flows for the year then ended, the notes to the financial statements including a summary of significant accounting policies. In our opinion, the financial statements give a true and fair view of the financial position of NASD Plc as at 31 December 2020 and its financial performance and cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with the International Financial Reporting Standards, the requirements of the Companies and Other Matters Act and Financial Reporting Council Act. We conducted our audit in accordance with the international standards on auditing. Our responsibilities under those standards are further described in the auditor's responsibilities for the audit of the financial statements section of our report. We are independent of the company in accordance with the requirements of the International Ethics Standard Board for Accountants, International Code of Ethics for Professional Accountants, and other independence requirements applicable to performing audits of financial statements in Nigeria. We have fulfilled our other ethical responsibilities in accordance with the IASBA Code and other ethical requirements that are relevant to our audits of financial statements in Nigeria. We believe that the audit evidence we have obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our opinion. I'll go to page 9, the last section of the audit opinion. Report on other legal and regulatory requirements. In accordance with the 5th Schedule of Companies and Other Matters Act, we expressly state that 1. We have obtained all the information and explanation which, to the best of our knowledge and belief, were necessary for the purpose of our audit. 2. The company has capable books of accounts so far as appears from our examination of those books. 3. The company's financial position and the statement of profit or loss and other comprehensive income agree with the books of accounts and return. Signed for Deloitte and Touche on the 24th of March 2020. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Having had the auditor's report, I propose we take the audit committee's report to be presented by Ms. Fiona Ahime, who is representing the chairman of the audit committee at this meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Report of the audit committee for the year ended December 31st, 2020 to the members of NASD Plc. In accordance with the provisions of Section 404 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, we, the members of the Audit Committee of NASD Plc, report as follows. 1. We have exercised our statutory functions under Section 404, subsection 7 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, and we acknowledge the cooperation of management in the conduct of these functions. 2. We are of the opinion that the accounting and reporting policies of the company are in accordance with legal requirements and agreed ethical practices. 3. We are of the opinion that the scope and planning of both the external and internal audit programs for the year ended 31st December 2020 are satisfactory and reinforce the company's internal control systems. 4. Having reviewed the external auditor's findings and recommendations on management matters and deliberated with the external auditors, we confirm that they received management cooperation in the course of their audit. We are satisfied with management's response to the management letter on the audit of the financial statements of the company. Signed, Mr. Kasimu Garba Kofi, Chairman, Statutory Audit Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hibne. The audited financial statements for the year ended 31st December 2020 commences from page 50 of the annual report and the report of the directors, the auditors, and the statutory audit committee that have now been presented to you. In accordance with the Corporate Affairs Commission's guidelines, shareholders were requested to send their questions 5 days before this meeting, and I would like to give other physically present shareholders the opportunity to ask any questions that they may have so that all may be addressed together. In the absence of any question, I intend to move for the approval of the audited financial statements for the year ended 31st December 2020. I now call on the registrar to explain the procedure for voting throughout this meeting.
To hold the meeting by proxy, we have captured a total of 29 shareholders' voting details received by proxy and holding 251,825,460 units, representing 56.6% of the issued share capital. Upon declaration of the resolutions by the chairman, the votes cast and captured using the proxy forms submitted will be displayed. Thank you.
Thank you. Now that the annual reports and accounts for the year ended 31st December 2020, the director's report and the audit committee report sent to all shareholders as required by section 388 subsection 1 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020 have been presented, I now move the motion for adoption of the reports. Will a shareholder please second the motion for adoption of the report?
I do second, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. The votes cast.
holding 251,825,460 units, representing 100% who have voted in favor of the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. I hereby declare the motion carried. The next item on the agenda is the election of non-executive directors. Following the resignation of Mr. Samuel Nwanze, representative of Hairs Holdings, and Ms. Obiageli Uboma, representative of Chapel Hill, Denham, the board received nominations from the respective companies. Upon thorough scrutinization by the board, it approved the appointment of the representatives of these companies as members of the board. The following being eligible are being recommended for election as non-executive directors in accordance with Section 273, subsection 1 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020. Mr. Ayodeji Adigun and Mrs. Olayimika Bolo. I therefore move that Mr. Ayodeji Adigun to be appointed as a non-executive director of the company in accordance with Section 273, subsection 1 of the Companies and Other Matters Act 2020. Will a shareholder please second the motion?
I do second, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
The vote cast will be displayed and read by the registrar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I ask that you wait patiently while we display the results. We have 29 shareholders representing 251,825,460 units, representing 100% who have voted in favor of the resolution. Thank you.
I hereby declare the motion as carried. I also move that Mrs. Olayinka Bolo be appointed as a non-executive director in accordance with Section 273, subsection 1 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020. Will a shareholder please second the motion?
I do second the motion, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
The resolution having been declared and duly seconded, the votes cast will be displayed and read out by the registrar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have 29 shareholders representing 251,825,460, having 100% who have voted in favor of the resolution. Thank you.
I hereby declare the motion as carried. The next item on the agenda is the re-election of directors. I now call upon Mr. Bola Jomale to conduct the business of re-election of directors, as I am one of the directors being presented for re-election.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The following directors retiring by rotation in accordance with Section 285 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020 and being eligible are presenting themselves for re-election: Mr. Olutola Mobonuri, Mr. Oladipo Aino, Mr. Abubakar Lawal, and Mr. Chike Nwanze. May I also inform the shareholders that pursuant to Section 284, subsection 2 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, the register of directors and record of directors' attendance at board meetings is available for inspection. I therefore move that Mr. Olutola Mobonri, now projected, retiring by rotation and presenting himself for re-election at this meeting in accordance with the company's Articles of Association, be and is hereby re-elected as a director of the company. Will a shareholder please second the motion?
Thank you, MD. I do second the motion.
The resolution having been carried, declared and duly seconded, the votes cast will be displayed and read out by the registrar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I ask you hold while we display the result. We have 28 shareholders who have voted in favor on the resolution, having 99.21%. We have one shareholder having 0.79% who have voted against the resolution. Thank you.
I hereby declare the motion as carried. I therefore move that Mr. Oladipo Aina, now projected, retiring by rotation and presenting himself for re-election at this meeting in accordance with the company's Articles of Association, be and is hereby re-elected as a director of the company. Will a shareholder please second the motion?
I do second the motion, sir.
The votes cast will be displayed and read out by the registrar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I request you kindly wait patiently while we display the result. Thank you. We have 29 shareholders holding 251,825,460 units, having 100% who have voted in favor of the resolution. Thank you.
I hereby declare the motion as carried. I therefore move that Mr. Abubakar Lawal, now projected, retiring by rotation and presenting himself for re-election at this meeting in accordance with the company's Articles of Association, be and is hereby re-elected as a director of the company. Will a shareholder please second the motion?
I do second the motion, sir.
The votes cast will be displayed and read out by the registrar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have 29 shareholders holding 251,825,460 units, having 100% who have voted in favor of the resolution. Thank you.
I hereby declare the motion as carried. Special notice. I therefore move that Mr. Abubakar Lawal, retiring by rotation and presenting himself for re-election at this meeting in accordance with the company's Articles of Association, be and is hereby re-elected as the director of the company. Will the shareholder please second the motion?
I do second the motion, sir.
The votes cast will be displayed and read out by the registrar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have 29 shareholders having 251,825,460 units, holding 100%, who have voted in favor of the resolution. Thank you.
I hereby declare the motion as carried. Special notice is hereby given by the company to the members in accordance with Section 278 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020 that the following resolution will be moved at the meeting: that Mr. Chikenwanze be re-elected a director of the company, notwithstanding that he attained the age of 80 years on November 7, 2020. I therefore move that Mr. Chikenwanze, now being projected, retiring by rotation and presenting himself for re-election at this meeting in accordance with the company's Articles of Association, be and is hereby re-elected as a director of the company. Will a shareholder please second the motion?
I do second the motion. Thank you.
The votes cast will be displayed and read out by the registrar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have 29 shareholders having 251,825,460 units, holding 100%, who have voted in favor of the resolution. Thank you.
I hereby declare the motion as carried. I now hand over the proceedings back to the chairman.
Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is to reappoint Messrs. Deloitte and Touche as independent auditors and to authorize the directors to determine the remuneration of the auditors. May I hereby move that the directors be and are hereby authorized to reappoint Messrs. Deloitte and Touche as independent auditors and determine the remuneration of the auditors for the accounting year ending 31st December 2021. Can a shareholder please second the motion?
I do second the motion, Mr. Chairman.
The registrar will display or read out the results.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have 29 shareholders who have voted in favor of the resolution, holding 251,825,460 units. Thank you.
Thank you. I hereby declare the motion as carried. The next item on the agenda is to elect members of the audit committee. Proxy forms were submitted ahead of the AGM. Upon compilation, the proxies represent 56.69% of shareholders. The proxies have been empowered by the shareholders to elect audit committee members on the shareholders' behalf. In accordance with Section 404, subsection 3 of the Companies and Other Matters Act 2020, the audit committee shall consist of 3 shareholders of the company and 2 non-executive directors, subject to a maximum of 5 members. The board has approved the following directors to represent it on the audit committee: Mr. Abubakar Lawal and Mr. Aig Mokwed. By the expiration of the statutory period to receive nomination for shareholders represented on the audit committee, the following were nominated by shareholders in accordance with Section 404, subsection C of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020 to serve on the committee for next year. The nominations received for the 2022 AGM Statutory Audit Committee elections are detailed below. Messrs. APT Securities Limited, represented by Mr. Kasimu Garba Kofi. Messrs. Palesa Capital, represented by Mr. Nona Awo. Messrs. FBN Capital Limited, represented by Mrs. Fiona Ahime and Mr. Ario Olubosun. At the expiration of the nomination dates, there were 4 shareholders nominated to serve, as we require only 3 representatives, and an election will be conducted. The election will be by show of hands. Each shareholder, each proxy should vote only 3 times to elect 3 representatives from among the 4 nominees. The 3 nominees with the highest votes will be deemed elected. The registrars and their assistants are kindly requested to count and record the votes and deliver the results to us. Oh, you've already. Registrar, do you have the results?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll ask that all those who are voting in favor of Ms. APT Securities and Funds Limited, represented by Mr. Kasimo Garba Kofi, should lift up their hands, please. Would all those voting in favor of Mrs. Palesa Capital, represented by Mr. Nona Awo, lift up their hands, please? All those voting in favor of Mrs. FBN Capital Limited, represented by Mrs. Fiona Ahime, lift up your hands, please. And all those voting in favor of Mr. Ario Olubomsin, please lift up your hand. I'll read out the votes. We have 3 shareholders who have voted in favor of Mrs. APT Securities and Funds Limited, represented by Kasimo Garba Kofi. We have 3 shareholders voting in favor of Mrs. Proxies, voting in favor of Mrs. Palisa Capital, represented by Mr. Nona Owo. 3 proxies for Mrs. FBN Capital Limited, represented by Mrs. Fiona Ahime. And we have nil votes for Mr. Ario Olubosin. Thank you.
Based on the results of the votes cast, I now move that the shareholders' representatives who will serve as the committee, I now declare. I now move that the shareholders' representatives who will serve as members of the audit committee until the next annual general meeting are Messrs. APT Securities and Funds Limited, represented by Mr. Kasimo Garba Kurfi, Messrs. Palesa Capital, represented by Mr. Nona Awo, and Messrs. FBN Capital Limited, represented by Mrs. Fiona Ahime. Will someone please second the motion?
I do second the motion, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
No. I hereby declare the motion as carried. The next item on the agenda is the disclosure of remuneration of managers. We had earlier on announced those who are representing the board on the committee, on the audit committee for the year. Will be Mr. Aigimo Kwede and Mr. Abubakar Lawal. That completes the full complement of the audit committee. The next item on the agenda is the disclosure of remuneration of managers. In accordance with Section 257 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, the director's fees for the financial year ending 31st December 2021 be and is hereby fixed at 31,625,000 naira only. Okay, the registrar will display the results of the vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I hereby move that the motion that the remuneration as fixed be approved by members.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have a seconder?
Okay, sorry.
I do second the motion, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you please display the vote or read out the vote?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have 29 shareholders having 251,825,460 units, representing the 100% who have voted in favor of the resolution. Thank you.
I hereby declare the motion as carried. Special business. We now move to the next item on the agenda, which involves amendment of the company's articles of association. The company wishes to amend its articles of association to authorize it to convene its board and committee meetings by teleconference and other virtual means. In light of this, I move a motion as follows. That pursuant to Section 53 of the Companies and Other Matters Act 2020, the articles of the association of the company be, and are hereby altered by the insertion of a new clause 14 as follows. Electronic meetings. Any board or committee meeting may be conducted by one or more means of remote communication through which all the directors may participate with each other during the meeting, if the number of directors participating in the meeting will be sufficient to constitute a quorum. Participation in a meeting by remote communication constitutes presence in person at the meeting. In the event a meeting is to be held by remote communication, the board shall establish the procedures for the conduct thereof, including without limitation, the procedure for voting by telephonic, electronic, or other communications facility. I therefore move that the new Clause 14 be included in the company's articles of association. Will a shareholder please second the motion?
Thank you, Mr.
Please
Chairman.
note that a special resolution is required to amend the company's articles of association. Accordingly, at least 75% of shareholders voting in person or by proxy are required to approve this resolution in order for it to be carried. Will the shareholder please second the motion?
I do second the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Will the registrar please display all and read out the results?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have 29 shareholders holding 251,825,460 units and representing 100% who have voted in favor of the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. I hereby declare the motion carried. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we have concluded all the items on the agenda for this meeting. On behalf of the board, I thank you for your interest in this company and hereby declare that the 8th annual general meeting of Nasd Plc is hereby brought formally to a close. May I call upon the MD to give his vote of thanks and to lead us in a closing prayer.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you to the shareholders, to our regulator, and to our auditors, and to everyone who's been a stakeholder in the journey of NASD. And I pray that your businesses and organizations, even in this 2021, achieves greater heights, and we meet again in good health and in more strength in the year 2022. So may God bless our prayers and our desires. In Jesus' mighty name I pray.